Greetings, Grand Rise. Grand Rise. So this is Tahin Kyrie LB. I I am making this audio visual public notice in the archivable format to just put on the record this letter that was sent to the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on May 15, 2025. Just to give a little backstory, I sent this via registered mail and I have the receipt here. I also paid extra to get a ER card. A ER card, it means authorized received, meaning the person who the mail is intended for, they have to sign this card stating that they personally received it. And in this instance, I paid, and I have the receipt here, but I was not able to get back the card from TT Post because they said that in this very special situation, the president is so busy, she can't sign to receive that because she is too busy. The thing is that is the point of that service. I have seen people receive ER cards from the Pope, from the President of the United States of America, from all the Secretary General of the United Nations. But what they are telling me is that the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is so busy that she cannot sign as having received it. But this receipt proves that it was sent via this method, that it was sent registered mail. So unless TT Post encountered some serious weather inbound, she should have gotten this. So it's just an excuse to me, it seems, for them to claim that she may not have received it. But I am reading this into the public record, so it would be noted for all concerned. So May 15, 2025, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, President Christine Carla Kangaloo, Office of the President, Circular Road, St. Anne's, Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Greetings from Tahin, an aboriginal natural being of the land. I am a now-time living being upon this island commonly referred to as Trinidad. I am the present-day manifestation of my ancient ancestors, including but not limited to the Aboriginal tribes of this land. The same tribes who the colonizers of the 14th century AD, working at the behest of the office of the Pope of the Vatican, massacred and kidnapped the land from the people and the people from the land as part of unum sanctum operations. On July 14, 2022, I had my statutory declaration notarized by Notary Public Verena Chambers at her chambers in the hopes that yourself and your various agents may be aware of myself and who I am. I am the son of my father, who is the son of his father, who is the son of the soil, who is the son of the sky. We have been here in some shape or form and exist as autochthonous beings of the land. I am the land in living, breathing, talking, walking, writing, reading form. I have been here before there was shape or form. On March 30, 2023, the Office of the Pope of the Vatican issued a repudiation of the doctrine of discovery that had given legal authority for those sanctioned by the Pope's powers to lay claim to the American lands. He even explained that the Vatican claims no ownership over any lands as described by the papal bulls as south and west of the Cape Verde Islands. a statement that essentially marks the end of a war of invasion and occupation by foreign military forces that is going on for 532 years now. The present situation of commercial enterprise operating on the land, purporting to be government agencies, but engage in usufruct and misprision against the people, is de facto and woefully without jurisdiction over an indigenous being. These and other government agents are mainly engaged with limiting my growth and development by demanding that I engage with them and create and energize and trade in their fraudulent treasury bond certificates that they brandish as currency as a way of continuing their war, invasion, occupation against just sanguineous and justly heirs to the land. The faith is strong that having availed yourself of the facts, you, as head of state, custodian of state lands, and commander-in-chief, would elucidate my specific circumstance to the various corporations operating on the land as government agencies, including but not limited to the Government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Customs Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, the Immigration Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, etc. They have manufactured acts, policies, regulations, charges, fees, restrictions out of thin air and use these and other coercion methods to extract monies from the citizens who are complicit energizers of the same foreign invaders now disguised as uniform agents maintaining a uniform commercial code. A uniform commercial code that the people played no role in formulating, but is now integrated into every facet of life involving money. My situation is simple. I would like to exercise the same freedom of movement of my being and my belongings as those accorded to my brothers and sisters, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and the beasts of the land. I recognize there is a foreign private corporation operating on the land involving citizens who work for a government, but I have made no contract or any other type of arrangement with such agents. I believe it is immoral for me to be forced to accept the role and function of an artificial person, which is actually a corporation imbued with debt, regulations, restrictions, and being subservient in a system that is based in London, England, Washington, D.C., or Vatican City, Italy. In 2007, the United Nations adopted a General Assembly resolution known as the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, UNDRIP, which preambles by declaring good faith in the fulfillment of the obligations assumed by states in accordance with the Charter. They are being guided by the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations. A charter is described as a formal written instrument bestowing privileges and rights, serving as legal evidence of them. This is from 1220 AD from Old French, Charter. So this declaration hinges on the rule of law governing governments. They go on to recognize the urgent need to respect and promote the rights of indigenous peoples affirmed in treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements with any government agency, subsidiary, or corporation related to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. However, when I attempt to have private freight transported from overseas to my domicile, it is being intercepted by various foreign-based agencies who hold the freight as ransom until they are given a quantity of United States Treasury bond certificates, commonly referred to as US dollars money, USD money. This is extortion by any definition. The destination is clearly identified as Tehin Kairi Ilbe, and they have no jurisdiction, no letters of authority relative to that being. Tehin Kairi Ilbe bears no allegiance, no commitment to their capitulation activities. The UNDRIP goes on to expound in 46 articles all the rights that indigenous peoples are entitled to due to their birthright claims to the land that precedes the formation of the de facto colonizing operations. Articles 3 and 4, to name a few, speak clearly on the rights of indigenous beings to self-determination and right to freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development, as well as exercising their right to autonomy or self-government in matters or internal affairs, as well as financing their autonomous functions. The present circumstance of Uniform Commercial Code operating Uniform Commercial, the present circumstance of Uniform Commercial Code operations that involve clandestine and bamboozlement to classify otherwise simple travel into contractual obligations within the jurisdiction of Admiralty law, disguised as fees, duties, taxes, with the main purpose of extracting energy from the people, is theft, rape, and unambiguously immoral. I have no arrangements with the so-called border agents. I simply have a freight package to collect at the port because transportation could not be effected by the shipping company to my domicile. All traveling expenses required to get the package to the destination were paid before the freight left the departure point. So to suggest there are outstanding fees upon reaching the port seems to be very unscrupulous business conduct and indicative of a disassociation from spiritual values. The Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago forms a framework for the Charter of Operation of the foreign capitulation operating as government on the land. I'll read that sentence over. The Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago forms a framework for the Charter of Operation of the foreign capitulation operating as government on the land. Chapter 1, Part 1 of said document describes the rights enshrined to all inhabitants to life, liberty, enjoyment of property. At present, as I mentioned, my property is being used as a ransom to elicit aforementioned promissory notes as part of their continued colonizing operations that started in the late 14th century. They are in direct contradiction of the rule of law and the actual letter of the law. I have an excerpt here of Chapter 1, Part 1 of the Constitution, the recognition and protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms. Part 1, Rights Enshrined. Number 4. It is hereby categorized and declared that in Trinidad and Tobago there have existed and shall continue to exist without discrimination by reason of race, origin, color, religion, or sex the following fundamental human rights and freedoms, namely, Part E, the right of the individual to life, liberty, security of the person, and the enjoyment of property, and the right not to be deprived thereof, except by due process of law. Part B says the right of the individual to equality before the law and the protection of the law. So all individuals have the inalienable human rights to life, liberty, security of person, and the enjoyment of property. Continuing with the letter, the previously mentioned Charter or Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is a derivative of orders in council set down in English Parliament in the House of Lords, London, England. This is literally an ocean away from me. How can an agent operating from a location an ocean away from me purport to exact control over my inalienable birthright hereditaments? To add to this, the Articles of Capitulation that gave the English royalty the confidence to demand fealty of the population to their foreign occupation of the land was procured via the Treaty of Amiens, 1802, that was signed in Amiens, France, involving 0 indigenous beings of the land. It involved European powers and should maintain that demographic, and with those who choose to engage with such principalities. Before the English overlords, the Spanish Legion had been occupying the land and raiding the people and land of all resources they thought useful by any means necessary. Going to describe land here based on a definition. You can get in any online dictionary. Land, noun. Number 1, you have an immovable and indestructible three-dimensional area consisting of a portion of the Earth's surface, the space above and below the surface, and everything growing or permanently affixed to it. Number 2 definition, an estate or interest in real property. That is what land could be described as. Continuing with the letter. Despite the diplomatic image that is painted of these conquering forces, the responding retaliation by the indigenous beings of the land in December 1699, commonly referred to as the Arena Uprising, paints a very vivid picture of the type of action that was thought to be needed by the Aboriginals to stem the activities of the Capuchin monks, the governor, and his entourage. Records place the carnage at 4 tons of human bodies after the first attack, and 84 captured prisoners, with some Aboriginals being hanged within a month. This history of murder, rape, coercion, and misprision forms the background for the formation and operation of the Constitution and the various government agents who are direct participants in the ongoing war of occupation on the land. The March 30th, 2023 announcement by the Pope to repudiate the doctrine of discovery focuses a clear vision that the indigenous beings of the land have been given a solid foundation to move forward with the improvement of their state of being after the 500 plus years of war of occupation. The only justifiable governance is of the de jure nature, that is predicated upon the upliftment of the people and not the drainage of energy resources in the form of various corporate gymnastics. The activities of agents of colonial enterprise continuously relate to the latter and bears no lawful jurisdiction over non-members of the corporate citizenry. The World Bank Group is one of the premier financial institutions for disbursement of funds for the development of countries, and it has outlined a document known as Operation Handbook OP 4.10-Indigenous People, which details all the stipulations that the bank has determined as a prerequisite for the allocation of funds to countries that have a presence of indigenous peoples. It describes an indigenous peoples framework plan as project preparation. It involves a process of free, prior, and informed consultation with affected indigenous peoples. It explains that the borrower must establish and maintain consultation methods with the affected indigenous communities and other local civil society organizations as identified by indigenous peoples throughout the project from start to after completion, and ensures that affected indigenous people are given special attention to the concerns of indigenous women, youth, and children, and their access to developmental opportunities and benefits. At the very least, corporate agents should recognize the rights of and their responsibility to the indigenous people in the community, for them to disavow knowledge of the facts because it does not meet some foreign policy requirement is a direct attack on the inalienable rights of living beings. I would like to draw attention to international proclamation issued by the Moorish National Republic to President Barack Obama on August 4, 2011, attached for your edification. Reference is also applied to the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People 2016, Section 1, Article 3, which makes it quite unambiguous that indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. I would like to draw attention to other documents attached for your erudition. The International Proclamation issued by the Moorish National Republic to President Barack Obama, August 4, 2011. The City of Chicago Proclamation, December 2011. And Civil Orders, July 4, 2014. Hopefully, after having considered the facts, you can persuade those under your jurisdiction to practice civility and respect for the Creator of all, the rule of law, and the life of man. I look forward to your response with bated breath as my economic, social, and cultural autonomy hangs in the balance. Regards to Hinkari Ilbe, all rights reserved. So, as I said, this letter was sent to the President May 15th, 2025. So you're coming up on a year now. Just about 2 months away from that. About 10 months now. No response to all the questions that were asked. And as I said, conveniently, Titipos cannot produce the signature that was paid for. You know? This is an audio, visual, time, date, stamped recording in the archivable format. Notice the principal is notice the agent, and notice the agent is notice the principal.